The Envoy ship moved silently through the endless dark of space. It was small compared to the massive fleets that crossed the galactic highways, but its purpose was greater than size. It carried only one man, a diplomat from Earth, sent to speak for his people in the halls of alien powers. His name was Marcus Hale, chosen not because of strength or weapons, but because of words. He was calm, patient, and believed peace was always stronger than war. For weeks his journey had been smooth. The Galactic Council had finally agreed to listen to humanity's voice. It was the first time Earth was given a chance to stand equal among the ancient civilizations of the stars. To Marcus, this was more than a mission. It was hope. But hope, in space, was fragile. On the 6th day of his travel through the Orion Passage, something changed. His sensors caught shadows moving faster than any trade ship. No communication signals, no friendly codes. Just silence. The Envoy ship was small, unarmed, and Marcus knew what it meant when predators circled prey. Pirates, maybe. Or worse, one of the empires who did not want Earth to rise. He tried sending a signal. No answer. He tried broadcasting his identity. No response. The shadows drew closer, and the stars around him bent as ships uncloaked, sleek, sharp vessels painted in dark metal. They belonged to the Korth Dominion, a species feared across the rim. The Korth were not interested in peace. They were interested in power. And they had no desire to see humanity gain a seat in the council. The leader of the raiders appeared on his comm screen. A tall, scaled figure with burning yellow eyes. "Human Envoy," the alien hissed, "your journey ends here. Earth will learn its place." Marcus tried one last time. "I am unarmed. I am only here to speak. If you stop this mission, you stop dialogue between our people and the council. Do not." The screen cut to static. Moments later, weapons fired. Bright lances of energy tore through his hull. The Envoy ship shook, alarm screamed, and Marcus felt the floor tremble under his boots. He struggled to control the vessel, but it was useless. He was not a soldier. He was not built for battle. Still, he whispered a message into the ship's recorder, a desperate transmission sent back toward Earth. A warning. His final act. Then, in the silence of the void, his ship was broken apart. The Korth Dominion left no survivors. No trace. To them, it was done. One human destroyed. One mission ended. Earth would remain in the shadows of the galaxy. But the galaxy had miscalculated. The transmission Marcus Hale sent before the end did not vanish. It reached Earth, burning through space, filled with static, fragments, and his last words, "They don't want peace. They only want fear. If I fall, let Earth remember." When the message reached Earth, silence fell across the command halls of the Terran Union. The diplomats lowered their heads. The generals clenched their fists. For humanity, this was not just an attack on one man. It was an insult written in blood. They had sent their envoy in peace. He had carried no weapon, no army, no threat. And he was murdered. That was the moment Earth changed. The Council had seen humans as young, as fragile, as newcomers to the stars. But the old histories of Earth were filled with fire and war. The blood of their ancestors had survived plagues, invasions, and empires. Humanity had always answered cruelty with resistance. Always answered death with defiance. And now, in the year 2234, the galaxy would learn that the same fire still burned. Ships began to move in the dark docks of Earth. Fleets that had been silent were awakened. Old weapons, hidden under the promise of peace, were polished and armed. Soldiers gathered in silence, their faces set like stone. The name of Marcus Hale was repeated, whispered, and sworn upon. Earth was not an empire. It did not seek conquest. But Earth remembered every scar in its history. And when a single envoy fell, the people of Earth rose as one. In the great chamber of the Terran Assembly, the president spoke only a few words. Words that were carried across the stars. words that reached every colony and every fleet. They thought killing one man would silence us. Instead, it will awaken us. Humanity does not kneel. Humanity remembers. And humanity will answer. The galaxy was vast, and Earth was still young. But for the first time, the old powers began to feel a cold wind move through their councils. Something had shifted. Something unstoppable. Because the Envoy had fallen. And when he fell, Earth's wrath was unleashed. The stars waited in silence for what came next. The stars carried whispers. The death of Marcus Hale spread faster than any official report. Traders spoke of it in docking bays, mercenaries told the tale in smoke-filled bars, and frightened envoys shared the rumor in hushed voices within the halls of the Galactic Council. A human envoy, unarmed, had been destroyed in cold blood. The Korth Dominion had done it openly, without fear, without shame. At first, many believed Earth would do nothing. Humanity was new to the galaxy, a young species still learning its place. Other civilizations thought of them as fragile, emotional, too bound by old-world ideas of honor and justice. Surely, they said, the humans would mourn, but they would not fight. But the humans did not answer with silence. In the hidden shipyards of Mars, entire fleets powered up. Engines that had not burned for decades roared awake. In the asteroid forges of Ceres, factories ran without pause, building weapons long thought unnecessary in this age of peace. On the icy colonies of Europa and Titan, soldiers trained in silence, their breath misting in the frozen air, their eyes hard as stone. Earth's message was clear: they would not forget. Among the stars, the Korth Dominion laughed. To them, humans were children playing at war. The Korth had destroyed dozens of civilizations before. What could Earth possibly do? But they did not understand. Humanity's strength was never in ancient fleets or vast empires. It was in something older, something buried in every story, every history, every scar. Humanity did not break. Humanity endured. The Council of the Terran Union gathered in orbit above Earth, inside a massive ring station called Horizon Prime. The chamber was filled with tension. Politicians spoke of caution. Generals spoke of action. Scientists spoke of the dangers of awakening weapons too powerful to control. But then, a single voice cut through the noise. Admiral Reyes, a veteran of Earth's first deep space wars, stood tall. His face was lined, his hair gray, but his eyes were sharp as steel. "They killed our envoy," he said. "They killed peace. And the galaxy is watching. If we kneel now, we will kneel forever. If we rise not only for Marcus Hale, but for every human who dares to stand among the stars." The chamber fell silent. No one argued. Because deep inside, every human knew he was right. And so it began. Earth launched Operation Dawnfire. It was not a war fleet sent blindly into the dark. It was something more dangerous, something the galaxy had never seen. Small strike groups, armed with human cunning, moved first. They slipped through trade lanes, found Korth outposts, and cut them down with surgical precision. Each attack was fast, brutal, and unexpected. Entire Korth garrisons were left burning before they even knew the humans had arrived. For the first time in centuries, the Korth Dominion felt fear. But Earth was not only fighting with weapons. They were fighting with words, too. Across the galaxy, human envoys carried the story of Marcus Hale, his final message, his death. They told other species that the Korth would do the same to them, that the Dominion respected nothing but power. And many listened. For the first time, alien civilizations who had ignored humanity began to wonder if perhaps the humans were not weak at all. Perhaps they were something else. Whispers turned into questions. Questions turned into alliances. Small species who had lived in fear of the Korth reached out to Earth, offering support, offering supplies, even offering soldiers. Humanity had become something unexpected in the galaxy, a banner, a symbol. But the Korth did not stay silent. From their throne world of Dravkor, the High Warlord spoke. His voice carried across subspace, sharp and cruel. Humans are insects. They forget what the galaxy truly is. Power is not earned, it is taken. Their envoy was the first. Many more will follow. And when Earth itself burns, they will understand what it means to defy the Korth Dominion. It was a declaration of war. Yet, even in the face of those words, Earth did not falter. On Horizon Prime, the president of the Terran Union made her answer before the council, her voice steady, her eyes unblinking. You mistake us, warlord. We do not fear death. We have lived with it since the beginning of our kind. But we remember. Always, we remember. And for Marcus Hale, for every soul you silence, humanity will return the cost. The chamber thundered with applause. Not just from humans, but from the representatives of smaller species who now stood beside them. And so, the first sparks of a greater fire spread across the stars. The Korth Dominion had killed one man to silence humanity. Instead, they had awakened something far greater, a people who refused to kneel, a people who fought not for empire, but for survival, for dignity, and for the memory of their fallen envoy. The galaxy held its breath. Because every world now knew, Earth was coming. And when Earth came, it would not come quietly. The first clash came sooner than anyone expected. The Korth Dominion, furious that smaller species were rallying behind Earth, sent a war fleet into the Vega sector. It was meant to be a display of dominance. The fleet carried 30 warships, massive, armored, built for crushing resistance. The Korth had wiped out entire civilizations with such fleets before. To them, this was routine. But Earth was waiting. Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge of the TNS Resolute, the flagship of the Terran strike force. He had studied the Korth for weeks, every movement, every weakness. The Dominion fought with brute force, never expecting resistance. They were predictable. And predictability could be destroyed. The Terran fleet was smaller, only 12 ships. Old hulls, retrofitted weapons, crews untested in large-scale battles. But each ship carried something the Korth had never faced, human ingenuity. Reyes gave the order, and the fleet slipped into the asteroid belt surrounding Vega 4. Engines cut to silence, power signatures masked, weapons primed. They would not meet the Korth head-on. Humanity did not fight by the enemy's rules. The Dominion fleet entered the sector, their formation tight, their weapons hot. To them, the battle was already won. They broadcast a message across open channels, filled with arrogance. Humans, surrender your ships and kneel before the Dominion. Resist, and you will be erased. Reyes did not answer. He simply gave the signal. From the dark rocks of the asteroid belt, the first Terran strike began. Mines, hidden deep within the field, detonated in sequence. Explosions ripped through the void, tearing apart 2 Korth cruisers before they even realized they had been ambushed. Then, human ships moved. Fast, smaller, darting between the rocks like hunters, they struck with precision. Railguns tore through Korth shields, missiles slipped past their defenses, and laser bursts cut through armor seams. Every shot was chosen, every strike timed. The Dominion fleet roared in fury, turning their heavy cannons toward the asteroids. They fired blindly, destroying hundreds of rocks, but in the chaos, they hit nothing but shadows. On the Resolute's bridge, Reyes stood calm, watching. Do not meet them head-on, he ordered. Bleed them. Break them. Show them what it means to fight humans. The battle stretched for hours. The Korth tried to regroup, but every time they formed ranks, another human strike shattered them. Their formation collapsed, their ships scattered, their arrogance burned away. But victory did not come without cost. The TNS Horizon, one of Earth's oldest cruisers, was caught in the crossfire. A Korth battleship's plasma lance tore through its side, splitting the vessel in half. Over 200 human lives were lost in a flash of fire and silence. The crew's last transmission came through the comms, a steady voice even as the ship fell apart. Tell them we didn't run. Tell them humanity fights. Reyes bowed his head for a moment, then raised his voice. For the Horizon. Finish it. The humans struck with renewed fury. Coordinated, relentless, they dismantled the Dominion fleet piece by piece. One by one, the mighty Korth warships fell, until only 5 remained. Broken, crippled, they tried to retreat. Reyes did not let them. "No survivors," he said coldly. "Send them a message they will never forget." The last of the Dominion fleet was destroyed over Vega 4. Fire lit the void, wreckage drifted among the stars. For the first time in living memory, the Korth Dominion had not only been stopped, but defeated. The galaxy trembled when news spread. Smaller species, long crushed by the Korth, celebrated in hidden corners of space. In the council chambers, whispers grew louder. The humans had done the impossible. They had fought the strongest and lived. But the Korth Dominion did not mourn. They raged. On their throne world, the High Warlord slammed his claws against the war table, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Enough of this game. If the humans want war, then war they shall have. Burn their colonies. Shatter their fleets. And when Earth itself lies in ruins, let the stars remember who rules the galaxy." Yet, even as the Dominion prepared their wrath, Earth prepared as well. The victory at Vega was not the end. It was only the beginning. Humanity had bled, but they had proven something vital. They could stand. They could fight. And they could win. On the bridge of the Resolute, Admiral Reyes looked at the drifting wreckage. His face was carved with grief, but his eyes burned with fire. "This was for Marcus Hale," he whispered. "But it is only the first. We are not done." The stars burned silently around him, carrying the echoes of war. And the galaxy now knew, humanity was not prey. Humanity was a storm. Victory at Vega shook the galaxy, but it also lit a fire of vengeance in the Korth Dominion. They had lost a fleet, humiliated by what they still called a child race. The High Warlord of the Dominion swore the humans would pay with blood. And so, the retaliation began. The target was not a fleet. It was not a stronghold. It was a colony. New Carthage, a small settlement on the edge of human space, held only 70,000 people. Families, miners, scientists, ordinary souls who believed distance would protect them. To the Korth, they were perfect prey. To Earth, they were a symbol of innocence. The Korth strike force arrived without warning. 3 warships, cloaked until the final moment, dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly above the colony world. The sky split open with fire. The first blasts destroyed the orbital defenses, tiny platforms that never stood a chance. The second blasts struck the surface. Whole districts of New Carthage turned to ash in seconds. Children screamed as buildings crumbled, people fled into the streets, and alarms howled across the colony. Governor Lin, leader of the settlement, stood in the command bunker. She tried to send a distress call, but the Korth jammed every channel. She knew the truth. No help would come in time. Still, she refused to surrender. "This is New Carthage," she said into the local broadcast, her voice shaking but strong. "We will not bow. We will not beg. Hide your children, protect your families, and fight with whatever you can hold. If we fall, let it be remembered, we did not kneel." The Korth soldiers landed soon after. Tall, armored, their claws gleaming, they marched through the burning streets. They slaughtered without mercy. Anyone who resisted was torn down. Anyone who ran was hunted. Their commander laughed as his troops dragged survivors into the open. "This is the price of human arrogance," he hissed. "This is the cost of defiance." But even in the ashes, the humans fought back. Farmers with hunting rifles, engineers with makeshift explosives, miners wielding drills, all rose to defend their home. They were no soldiers, but they carried something stronger than training: desperation. In one district, a group of colonists ambushed a Korth patrol. They fought in the ruins of their homes, striking from shadows, vanishing into smoke. 4 hours, the Dominion soldiers struggled to control the settlement. The humans would not stop. Even as their numbers fell, their defiance burned brighter. Yet, the outcome was never in doubt. By the time the Dominion fleet withdrew, New Carthage was no longer a colony. It was a graveyard. Of 70,000, fewer than 8,000 survived. And among the wreckage, Governor Lynn's final message was found. She had recorded it moments before the Korth broke into her bunker. Her voice was tired, but unbroken. Earth, they came for us. They wanted fear. But they will never have it. Tell my people this, New Carthage stands. Even in death, we stand. When the transmission reached Earth, silence filled every hall, every home, every ship. People wept, but their tears turned quickly to rage. The names of the dead were read aloud in the Terran assembly, and every name became a promise. The galaxy watched closely. Many species thought humanity would break under the weight of such loss. After all, the Korth Dominion had crushed countless others with similar strikes. That was their way. If an enemy resisted, they burned their worlds until nothing remained. But the humans did not break. On Horizon Prime, Admiral Reyes stood before his officers. His face was carved in stone, his voice steady. They think this will weaken us. They think burning our colony will make us kneel. But they don't understand. Every name from New Carthage is now written in fire. And fire does not bow. Fire spreads. The Terran Assembly voted within the hour. Humanity was no longer fighting only for Marcus Hale. They were fighting for New Carthage. They were fighting for every child lost, every home destroyed, every survivor who still cried beneath the stars. And their answer would not be quiet. Factories doubled their output. New ships were built, faster and stronger than before. Soldiers swore oaths over the names of the fallen. Colonies volunteered supplies and fighters, even when it meant risking everything. Humanity had become something the galaxy had not expected, united. But whispers spread through the council chambers. Some envoys asked in fear, if humanity rises like this after one colony is destroyed, what will they become if the war continues? The question lingered, unanswered. Because Earth's wrath was still gathering, like a storm behind dark clouds. And somewhere, deep in the void, Admiral Reyes looked out at the stars and whispered a single vow. For New Carthage, the galaxy will burn. The galaxy expected humanity to defend. To build walls, to protect colonies, to wait for the next Dominion strike. That was the pattern of every weaker species the Korth had ever crushed. But humanity refused to follow the pattern. Instead, they attacked. The target was not random. Deep in Dominion space lay a fortress world called Korath Prime, a supply hub that fed half the Korth war fleets. It was guarded by massive orbital platforms, a fleet of patrol ships, and garrisons of hardened soldiers. No one had ever dared to strike it. To attack Korath Prime was to challenge the Dominion itself. And that was exactly why humanity chose it. Admiral Reyes stood over the tactical display on the bridge of the Resolute. His fleet was smaller than what the Dominion kept there. He knew it. His crew knew it. But he also knew something else. The Korth expected fear, not courage. They would never imagine humans bold enough to carry war into their own heart. Today, Reyes said quietly, his eyes locked on the glowing map of Korath Prime, we teach them what it means to hunt us. Today, we show them what happens when you strike humanity and think we will kneel. The plan was simple but dangerous. Strike fast, strike hard, and vanish before the Dominion could respond with reinforcements. The Terran fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel just beyond the system, then pushed in under cover of false signals and decoys. The first explosions came from within. Human saboteurs, special operatives who had infiltrated the system weeks earlier, triggered hidden charges on the orbital defense platforms. Two massive guns went silent in bursts of fire, opening a gap. Through that gap, the Terran fleet charged. The Resolute led the way, its railguns firing in relentless rhythm. Missiles streaked across the black, slamming into Korth patrol ships before they could even raise shields. One Dominion frigate tried to hold the line, but a human destroyer rammed it at full speed, tearing both ships apart in a ball of flame. Chaos spread across Korath Prime. The Dominion had never expected an attack on their own world. They scrambled to respond, but the humans were already inside their defenses. On the surface, more explosions shook the planet. Human strike teams, dropped in small pods, emerged like ghosts in the night. They targeted supply depots, fuel silos, and weapon caches. Everywhere they struck, fire followed. The sky above Korath Prime glowed red as the world itself seemed to burn. And then came the moment the galaxy would never forget. The Terran fleet did not aim for conquest. They aimed for humiliation. They targeted the Central Command Citadel of Korath Prime, the place the Dominion used to broadcast orders across half their empire. Reyes gave the order, and a barrage of missiles struck the Citadel with precision. The great tower that had stood for centuries collapsed into ruins, dust and fire rising into the sky. Across subspace, the humans sent a single message, broadcast on every channel, reaching every ship, every world, every council chamber. This is for New Carthage. This is for Marcus Hale. Humanity does not kneel. Humanity answers. The words echoed through the galaxy like thunder. The Korth scrambled, rallying reinforcements from nearby systems. But Reyes had no intention of holding Korath Prime. He had already won. The humans withdrew as quickly as they came, their ships darting into faster-than-light jumps, vanishing into the dark. Behind them, the fortress world burned. The galaxy erupted in shock. Never before had the Korth Dominion suffered such a strike. Never before had anyone dared to pierce their core and escape alive. Smaller species whispered in awe. Some cheered openly, emboldened by the sight of the mighty Dominion brought low. But others trembled. If humanity could do this to the Korth, what else were they capable of? Was this courage, or was it the rise of something even more dangerous? In the halls of the Galactic Council, envoys argued for hours. Some called for support of humanity, saying the Korth had finally met justice. Others warned that the humans were reckless, that they were igniting a war that would consume all. And far away, on Dravkor, the High Warlord of the Dominion raged. His claws shredded the war table, his eyes burning with fury. Humans will pay, he roared. They think themselves warriors? Then let them taste true war. Burn their worlds. Drown their fleets. I will tear Earth from its sky and scatter its ashes to the void. His generals bowed in silence, but some exchanged worried glances. The humans had struck deep into their heart. If such raids continued, the Dominion's fearsome image might crumble. And if their image crumbled, their empire would follow. Back on the Resolute, Admiral Reyes stood among his officers. The battle was won, but his face carried no joy. He knew what was coming. They will come for us with everything they have, he said. They will strike harder, burn brighter, and try to break us. But we will not break. We will stand. And when the storm comes, we will answer. The crew stood in silence, their eyes fixed on the stars. Because they knew the storm was already on its way. The strike on Korath Prime had shaken the galaxy. The humans had done the impossible. But it also woke a beast. The Korth Dominion had never known humiliation like this. Their citadel destroyed, their fleets burned, their pride wounded before the entire galaxy. The High Warlord would not allow it to stand. He ordered a single command, broadcast to every Dominion fleet. Burn the humans. All of them. Leave nothing. And so, the storm came. The invasion began at the edge of human space. Hundreds of Dominion warships surged through faster-than-light gates, pouring into the Vega sector like a flood of steel and fire. Entire fleets moved in perfect formation. Cruisers, destroyers, carriers, battleships. More ships than humanity had ever seen in one place. On the Resolute, Admiral Reyes stood grim at the tactical display. Red markers filled the map, a tide of enemies pushing toward Earth's colonies. His fleet was brave, but small compared to the storm. They want to crush us with numbers, Reyes said, his voice steady. Then we will remind them, numbers alone do not win wars. Humanity prepared like never before. Orbital platforms were activated, colonies dug into defenses, and fleets formed walls of steel in the void. Every soldier, every ship, every weapon was brought forward. The memory of Marcus Hale and New Carthage burned in their hearts. The first great clash came above the colony of Vega's Reach. The Dominion fleet arrived in overwhelming force, 70 warships against 20 Terran vessels. Their commander broadcast a single demand: "Surrender, humans. Kneel, and we will grant you mercy." Admiral Reyes gave only one answer: fire. The void exploded. Terran railguns thundered, hurling metal slugs that tore through Korth shields. Missiles streaked across the black, painting the stars with fire. Fighters swarmed like angry hornets, weaving between Dominion cruisers, striking engines and weapon ports. The Dominion responded with brutal force. Plasma lances cut through human ships, splitting one frigate in half with a single beam. Heavy cannons pounded the orbital defenses, breaking platforms into shards of metal. For every Dominion ship destroyed, 2 more pressed forward. The Resolute shook under the impact of enemy fire. Sparks showered the bridge, alarms screamed, but Reyes stood unflinching. "Hold the line," he commanded. "For every ship we lose, take 3 of theirs. Make them bleed." And bleed they did. The humans fought like no species the Dominion had ever faced. They did not retreat. They did not surrender. Even when ships were crippled, their crews rammed into Dominion warships, turning themselves into weapons. Even when orbital defenses fell, ground troops fired from the ruins, refusing to bow. One Terran captain, her ship burning from bow to stern, opened her last transmission to the fleet. "They want us to kneel. Tell them humanity forgot how." She then rammed her ship into a Dominion battleship, taking both into a sunburst of flame. Hours passed. The stars burned with wreckage, broken hulls drifting in silence. The Dominion had numbers, but the humans had something the warlord could not understand: unyielding will. When the smoke cleared above Vega's Reach, the battlefield told a story. 30 human ships were gone. Thousands of lives lost. The colony burned, its cities reduced to ash. But the Dominion had lost nearly 50 warships, their once perfect fleet shattered, their advance slowed. The invasion was not stopped. But it was wounded. The galaxy trembled at the news. For the first time, the Dominion's all-out assault had not crushed its target. Humanity had paid dearly, but they had made the unthinkable possible. They had survived the storm. On Dravkor, the High Warlord roared in fury, his claws carving deep scars into his throne. "How can they resist us?" he demanded. "They are nothing. They are children." But his generals were silent. For they had seen the humans fight. They had seen ships that should have fled instead charge into death with fire in their eyes. And even the mighty Korth began to feel unease. On Horizon Prime, the survivors returned, bloodied but unbroken. Admiral Reyes stood before his officers, his uniform scorched, his voice raw. "We lost much today," he said. "But listen well, we are still here. And as long as humanity draws breath, we will not kneel. Let the Dominion throw their fleets, let them burn our worlds. For every life they take, we will take 10. For every world they scorch, we will rise again." The chamber erupted in thunderous applause. Humanity had taken its wounds, but it had not fallen. And now, whispers spread across the stars. Species once too afraid to resist the Dominion began to stir. If humans could stand, perhaps others could too. The storm was far from over. The Dominion had not yet unleashed its full fury. But the galaxy knew one thing now: this was no longer the fall of humanity. This was the rise of something greater. And as the smoke cleared, the stars seemed to wait for what came next. Because Earth's wrath was only beginning. The war had burned for months. The Korth Dominion threw fleet after fleet at humanity. Colonies fell, worlds burned, and thousands died. But humanity never broke. Each loss only sharpened their will. Each death became fuel for vengeance. And across the galaxy, others began to rise. The Varen traders, long bullied by the Korth, sent ships of their own to fight alongside Earth. The Shaliri, a species the Dominion had nearly enslaved, offered soldiers and weapons. Even the timid Orati, who had once hidden behind treaties, finally sent fleets. One by one, the small powers of the galaxy rallied, not to conquer, but to stand beside the humans. Humanity had become more than a people. They had become a banner. The Dominion could not allow it. The High Warlord gathered his greatest armada. 500 warships, the largest force the galaxy had seen in centuries, all aimed at one goal, Earth itself. If they burned the cradle of humanity, they believed the fire would die. But humanity was waiting. Admiral Reyes stood aboard the Resolute, orbiting above Earth. His fleet was smaller, barely 200 ships. But this time, they were not alone. Around the humans gathered fleets of allies, their banners flying together for the first time. The galaxy that had once whispered in fear now stood united. "This is it," Reyes said, his voice steady, carrying across the comm channels. "They came for Marcus Hale. They came for New Carthage. They came for all of us. Today, we show them that humanity does not kneel, and neither does the galaxy." The armada came like a storm. 500 Dominion warships emerged from faster-than-light space, their formation stretching across the void. The High Warlord himself commanded from his flagship, a vessel larger than any human had ever seen. His voice thundered across subspace. "You are insects. Today, I erase you. Today, Earth dies." Reyes did not flinch. He gave a single command. "Fire." The stars erupted. Railguns thundered, missiles streaked, plasma lances burned. Human ships dove through the chaos, weaving between allies, striking hard and fast. The Varan ships unleashed volleys of guided torpedoes, the Shaliri cloaked their vessels in stealth, striking from shadows, and the Orati, once timid, formed a wall of shields that blunted the Dominion's first assault. But the Dominion was overwhelming. Their cannons tore through Allied lines, their numbers pressed forward without pause. Whole squadrons of humans were lost in bursts of flame. The TNS Valor was torn apart, its captain's final words echoing. "Tell Earth, we held." Still, the humans did not retreat. Every fallen ship bought time, every explosion slowed the Dominion advance. And then, from within the chaos, came the strike. A hidden wing of Terran stealth ships, cloaked until the last moment, darted toward the Dominion flagship. Their mission was not to survive, it was to end the war. The Dominion flagship's shields blazed, swatting down ship after ship. But the humans pressed on, relentless. One destroyer, burning and broken, rammed straight into the flagship's shield array, shattering it in a storm of fire. That was the opening. Admiral Reyes ordered the Resolute forward. Every gun fired, every missile launched, slamming into the Dominion flagship. The Allies joined in, the sky itself burning with the combined fury of dozens of species. The High Warlord roared in rage. His ship shuddered under the onslaught, but still he fought, still he believed in his own strength. "You cannot kill the Dominion," he screamed. "We are eternal." And then, the Resolute fired its final railgun salvo. The shells tore through the Dominion flagship's core. For a moment, the massive vessel hung silent in the void. Then it exploded. The fireball lit the stars brighter than a sun. The Dominion flagship was gone. The High Warlord was no more. The battle did not end instantly. The remaining Dominion ships fought with fury, but their command was shattered. Their unity crumbled. And for the first time in centuries, the Dominion fleet broke. They retreated, scattering into the void. The galaxy had witnessed the impossible. Humanity and its allies had stood against the strongest empire in known space, and won. On the bridge of the Resolute, silence hung as the wreckage drifted. Admiral Reyes looked at Earth below, blue and fragile, yet unbroken. His voice was soft, almost a whisper. "For Marcus Hale. For New Carthage. For all of us." Across the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. Species that had lived in fear for generations now stood taller. The Dominion, once the terror of the stars, had been brought to its knees, not by an empire of millions, but by a young species that refused to kneel. Humanity had not sought war. They had sought peace. But when their envoy fell, when their people burned, they answered with fire. And in doing so, they changed the galaxy forever. From that day on, a new phrase spread across the stars, whispered with awe and respect. Do not provoke the humans. For when one of them falls, all of Earth will rise. And the galaxy would never forget.